Hello and welcome to the Astrology and Spirituality Overview Show for Wednesday, the 20th of January. Now today is the presidential inauguration, and the moment this occurs is at 12 midday Eastern Time. Now the chart I've erected for this puts the ascendant for this event actually at 14 degrees in the sign of Taurus. Now of course we already have Uranus and Mars very closely aligned in Taurus in perhaps a very unsettling, tense way. And we have that cluster of energy in Aquarius, which has recently been joined by the Sun. So the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, all in Aquarius. And they're in the 10th house. The 10th house is very much about democracy. The Democratic Party has gained its mandate and its candidate is going to be inaugurated. So that's perfect. But there is something that stands out for me, and that's that the moon is in the 12th house. It's just in Aries, but also Chiron is in 12th house too. I feel that this presidential candidate will have a degree, quite a strong degree, of attacks from people who perhaps don't have the vision he wants to share. I'm not talking about Mr. Biden in a personal context. I don't know an awful lot about him. But this chart definitely represents a person or a mode of travel about reconnecting with whether it's the World Health Authority, whether it's the Climate Change Conference, whether it's trying to get lines of communication better established with the opponents of the West, because just not talking to them doesn't work. So even if China is probably the biggest threat to the Western world, just having no dialogue is not going to be sustainable. So you have to engage at some level. And some of the things that President Trump did around trade, I think a lot of people really approved of that, because cheap imports from China in a very unregulated way, they don't take part in the International Monetary Exchange, which means they can keep prices very low. It creates a very uneven playing field, and that creates job losses in both, well, all parts of the Western world, but it's been particularly serious in America because, of course, America has been such a massive manufacturing hub. So I feel that we are going to find someone who's going to be more collegiate, more wanting to build bridges rather than build walls. And I think that this is a person who really is going to embrace the spirit of community the best he can. But I think that is a very testing combination with Mars, Uranus, the moon and Chiron all in the 12th house. I think his enemies will be really determined to try to bring down this presidency. And they, of course, that clustering of energy, but particularly Uranus and Mars, are directly square Uranus and Jupiter, which are much more inspirational, much more about the new world we all want to have, which is based on more kindness and less material values. Well, I say we all want to have, I want to have. And so it's going to be very interesting how this all works out for him. He also has Venus in the 9th house and Pluto in the 9th house of international affairs. And both are forging a very positive influence with Neptune. So we're probably going to find that more cordial, less obvious communications in an international sense are going to take place. So much less pugnacious approach in general, which, to be honest, I think you all knew that anyway, but the astrology bears that out too. Elisa, what do the cards say for the inauguration?
So today we're using the unicorn cards for that direct energy that sort of pierces through.
Very much to do with communication.
Yeah, very much communication. Very Gemini cards, particularly, but any air sign really works well with this energy. Okay, the word on this card says decide.
Whoa.
It said it's time to clearly make a decision about what it is you want.
What we want, perhaps.
Yeah, this is no longer sitting on the fence time. Now, sitting on the fence is not the same as taking a step back from...
No. To contemplate.
Yes, because sometimes taking that step back is a choice. Indecision is a choice. So we're all going through life making choices every single day, consciously or not. What this card is asking is that we start to make choices consciously, that we don't just give power away or just wait to see, you know, what happens or let somebody else decide. This is about taking control of our own situations, our own lives, and making those choices for ourselves. It's not always easy, but I definitely think if we're all more clear with each other about our boundaries, our wants and our needs, we can find ways to get along. There is always that overlap because we're a human species. We all fundamentally just need the same things: security, food, water, shelter.
And to be heard.
And to be heard, and, you know, to be loved, to have
validated.
connections with others and validated.
Yeah. Well, let's hope, for the sake of everybody, that a more peaceful time starts to ensue. This chart suggests that is not going to be the case. I think that, you know, Mr. Biden, President Biden, is going to be trying to raise the tone. He's going to be trying to be much more constructive, much more inclusive. Whether you were a Trumponian or not, from the outside it seemed that there was always a lot of dramas. I think we're going to see a lot less dramas, but unfortunately, having Mars, Uranus, the Moon and Chiron all in the 12th house of this moment, it is quite concerning, to be honest. And I don't want to say any more than that, but there are some very strong fundamental viewpoints in the world today, and that can include what they call home-based terrorism, where people have very, very extreme views, and that's why we saw Capitol Hill getting obviously besieged by people. Nothing wrong with people turning up and shouting and carrying flags and protesting for a klaxon. But when you're sort of diving into a building and smashing things up and
yeah, whether you're the right or the left,
it doesn't matter. You know, it's like what we want is a more consensual approach everywhere. So I think he's going to try and do that. But I think the forces that oppose him are going to be very trenchant, very determined. And I do think that this could be quite tough for Mr. Biden in some ways.
Gosh, well, thank you for joining us today for that epic reading of what, you know, potentially the energy is going to be surrounding this situation.
And thank you so much, Elisa, and please check out your free daily horoscope below, and take care. And from the people, it's goodbye from me
and goodbye from me.
Goodbye.